Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 1 Samuel, the 4th chapter. Philistines take the ark in victory. And here we see a part of the curse or the judgment the Lord pronounced against Eli, or at least the sign that he would show Eli, as he said, to prove that the judgment would come to pass indeed, i.e. the death of his sons, and also the capture here, as we see in this chapter, of the Ark of the Covenant. So this is 1 Samuel chapter 4 and 1. Now, it's important to note that at this time, the Israel, right, and the layout of Israel, as we come to later on know, in in the later time period, it wasn't so, right? That's why the tabernacle was in Shiloh, and that was where it was set up, and that was a place of worship. Now, at this time, where we know as Jerusalem, which in ancient times was known as Jebus, because it was a city of the Jebusites, hadn't been captured by David yet. So that's why you don't really hear mention of Jerusalem, because this was pre-Jerusalem times, you could say. So this is 1 Samuel 4 and 1. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle, and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. So I have a map here that is rough, sort of like imagery of these locations here. So you can see Ebenezer somewhere around here, and Aphek somewhere around here. So they basically came and faced each other, ready to go to war, or ready to fight. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. So things weren't going our way, to where you had about 4,000 Israelite soldiers that died. And when the people were coming to the camp, so when they retreated, because remember, we had our camp was over here and the Philistines' camp was over here. So when they joined in the battlefield, it wasn't going too well. So the troops retreated back to the camp. And when they came back, as it says, the elders of Israel said, "Wherefore hath the Lord Yahweh smitten us today before the Philistines?" So what happened? Why is the Lord, causing us to get our ass handed to us by the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So they figured, well, if we have the ark with us, then we'll be good. So let's go get it. So the people sent to Shiloh, that they may bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. And so they basically sent word back to say, hey, bring the ark, and bring it into the camp, so that we can the presence of the Lord can be with us, and we can gain favor. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. So being that it was here in Shiloh, and remember that Hophni and Phinehas were priests, so chances are they carried it, or were part of those that carried it and brought it to the camp. Where we at? Verse 5. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. So, you can imagine like a very, very popular concert, and how, when all the fans are basically screaming in unison, either singing along to the song, that actual sounding of it, as it says, is like the earth ringing. And when the Philistines heard the voice, the noise, because remember, sounds, vibrations, and vibrations can be felt. You ever like Like you may see a certain scene in a movie, or sometimes you may even experience it yourself, where somebody's driving by with like a really really loud speaker, and they're playing really really loud music, and you basically like see either like the water in your glass starts to shake, right? Like vibrate based on the beat, because sounds are vibrations. So the louder it is, it can actually feel like like a shaking or a movement. Verse 6, and when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, what meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? So what's going on here? What's all this? What's that noise? What's going on? Why are they yelling so loud? And they understood that the ark of the Lord Yahweh was come into the camp. So meaning like they got informed that they went and brought their ark of the covenant in there, and that's why they're so excited. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is coming to the camp. And they said, woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. So basically, when they heard this, they were afraid, right? And basically, because the Philistines knew about the history of Israel and how the God of Israel and what he did to Egypt, right? That still wasn't too long ago at this time. And so by hearing this, they were afraid, and they started to get weak. They started to become fearful because they hadn't dealt with a matter like this before. That's what they mean by such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us, who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Now, remember that these heathens are polytheistic, right? So in their minds, it's even when it comes to us, in their minds, it's like there's a God of this, God of that, God of this, God of that, right? So as to where we know, right, and we knew that it was one God, our God, the Most High, Yahweh, who did this and bringing the plagues upon Egypt. From their perspective, it's like the gods of Israel that did this, right? That basically destroyed Egypt with those plagues. So they remembered that, and they were afraid, saying, if that's if that's the power in their camp, and after what he did to Egypt, we don't stand a chance. However, verse 9, be strong and quit yourselves like men. The word quit here meaning to behave, or to strengthen yourself and act like men. O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews. So this might have been, either their captain or their elders or somebody in the camp, basically exhorting them to strengthen themselves and go and fight with courage still, because if they don't, the Hebrews, meaning the Israelites, would take over them, and they would have to become their servants. As it says, as they have been to you. So just as they have been underneath you, right, as your servants. And as we read in the book of 1 Samuel, you'll see how the Philistines had an upper hand over us in certain matters. So basically they're saying, if you don't fight now, you're gonna become under their dominion. All right. So as it says, quit yourselves like men and fight, or in other words, stand and fight like men. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man to his tent. See, so when they went to fight, the Lord, even though they brought the ark into the camp, the Lord still had it to where the Philistines had an upper hand, and they basically smote Israel. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. Damn. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And guess what? This is what the man of God told Eli, that his sons would be slain in one day, and that would be a sign or a proof that the Lord would perform that judgment that he had pronounced against the house of Eli. So at this point, the ark of the covenant is taken. Hophni and Phinehas are now dead. And they ran a man of Benjamin, which the Benjamites were swift, they were fast. Right. Is Usain Bolt's one? I think. Hold on. Usain Bolt. Yeah, he's Jamaican. So he's a Benjamite. So there you go. Right. So they definitely had like speed. All right. And so you can imagine that usually those that would basically play that role of like the messenger and so on, because they could be very quickly, they could have news travel quicker. So as it says, and there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent and with earth upon his head, which was like a sign of mourning. So looking at the map again, right, from the camp where the Philistines captured the ark. Now, keep in mind, right, that like they came to battle with Israel here, right? And usually in a battle, you may have your camp here, they may have their camp here, you meet in the middle, you go to war. But when one side starts to get the upper hand, they start to pursue after the other side, sometimes even into their camp or whatnot, to, you know, to basically completely take them out and to get their spoils. So, you know, it could be that the the Philistines pursued them there, because I don't imagine, you know, Phinehas and Hophni's being priests going to actually fight in the war, but they were with the ark, right? So the Philistines, having pursued Israel, likely got to where they were able to get close enough to capture the ark. And if Hophni and Phinehas were with the ark, it makes sense why they were able to actually slay them. So the messenger goes back to Shiloh, right, with this message. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching. The wayside is like the road, but this isn't like the road, like the outside of the city road, likely the path right where the temple was, or to the temple, you know, because that was where he was dwelling, and he was old. And he was basically eagerly awaiting news, as it says, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. So he was afraid that something could happen to the ark. Because, I mean, being a priest, he understood what the ark was, the importance of it, right? And when the man came into the city and told it all the news, and told it, all the city cried out. So when everybody heard this news, there was a great, like, you know, distress, right? And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, what meaneth the noise of this tumult? You know, so what's all this crying? What's all this noise about? What's going on? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, so he was old, and his eyes were dim, that he could not see. So he's basically blind at this point. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, what is there done, my son? So what happened? What, how did it go? What's going on? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines. So we basically lost and had to retreat. And there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead. And the ark of God is taken. So just bad news after bad news after bad news. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, being Eli, that is. So when he heard this news, being in shock, he basically fell backward in his seat, and his neck brake, and he died. For he was an old man and heavy. And, you know, chances are he was a little on the heavier side of things. I think in the NLT it says he was overweight. That's all those offerings that he was tearing up over there. Anyway, he basically fell back. He was old. He was heavy, and so the impact caused his neck to break, and he died. And he had judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas's wife, was with child, near to be delivered. So she was in the later parts of her pregnancy. And when she heard the tidings, which was the news, that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law, and Eli, and her husband, Phinehas, were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. So she basically went into labor at that point. And, you know, might have been somewhat premature, right? But it sounds like it was caused by the shock, you know, of hearing that news, right? That basically she went into labor. And as it says, her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the women that stood by her said unto her. So she basically died in childbearing, right? Be it by some complication or whatever the case was. But those that like the midwives, those that were around at the time of her delivering the baby, said, fear not, for thou hast born a son. So don't be afraid. Your husband is dead, your father-in-law is dead, but you have a son now, so his line can still continue. And usually, having a man child or a son was a thing to rejoice at. I mean, look at Hannah when she bore Samuel. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. So she was just like indifferent about it. And she named the child Ichabod, which when you go into that, it means, was it no glory or no honor? Ayah Kabawad, as it says, no glory, which the word kabad, kabawad mean, I think it goes back to kabad, which is honor, or glory. And see here, yeah, okay, they have here Ayah. Anyway, she names the son Ichabod and says the glory is departed from Israel because the ark of God was taken, and because her father-in-law, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. So she basically, gave birth to this child, but she was at a point of death, right, and distressed, and it wasn't a pleasant thing for her, right? Hence, she named the child Ichabod. And she said, the glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. And that brings us to the end of 1 Samuel, the 4th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.